Hi there, I'm Christopher, and in this video we're going to talk about how to register for the 2020 Episcopal Diocese of Albany Convention webinar. I'll show you some of the basics of joining and navigating the webinar and the voting. I'm going to go fast, so if you find this video on the Diocese YouTube channel, you can hit pause as often as you like. First is registration. We hop on our computers and head over to the Diocese website. That is at www.albanydiocese.org. That brings us to this page. Here we find the link to the Diocese Convention near the top. Clicking that brings us to the convention page. Scroll down, read through, and look to the left and find the link to register. Click on that, and now we are at the convention registration information page, which has lots of information we should read. So we're doing that. We're reading, we're scrolling, we're reading more. Then we come to another link. It says register. Click. We are getting pretty close. If we click on the register now button, we will find a form, the registration form, but we'll get to that in a minute. Many of us will actually want to register for pre-convention meetings as well. So we're going to run through that real quick. Of course, by the time you see this, that day may have passed, but stick around. You might enjoy it. Let's take it from where we found ourselves at the Diocese Convention page. It looks like this. We go to the paragraph titled Pre-Convention Meetings. Read through it all and select the pre-con date which works for us and click it, and voila, we're at a registration form. This is easy. Like all registration forms, we fill in all the boxes with the correct information. We double check to see what we got right, and then we click register. That's it. Registered. Now let's get to the webinar. You will receive a confirmation email that looks kind of like this. The middle section here has a link that says click here to join. We want to join, so let's click there. That takes us to a page like this where we can download and run Zoom, or if you are already a pro Zoomer because grandkids and business meetings and stuff, you can straight up click here. Otherwise, follow me to download and run Zoom. Clicking that starts a download. Indicated at the bottom left of your window. When it's done, which will probably take more time than this, click here. It will install what we call the Zoom client. Remember that. That's your tech term of the day. It will be on the test. The client will finish installing and the webinar will begin. Easy peasy. If you're having any trouble installing the Zoom client, and I know I ran through this pretty quickly, get yourself back to this page and click on this little guy which says join from web browser. You'll find yourself here. Enter your name in the box. Click the little box which indicates you are not a robot, unless of course you are a robot. Follow any additional instructions and boom, you are in a webinar. If you still can't make it work, we will help you out. We have a great crew of tech support people at Christ the King ready to help you. Call this number toll-free for assistance. The convention webinar will be accessible 1 hour before start time and pre-convention meetings a half hour before start. So if you are unsure of your abilities to connect, try getting in early, and if you need assistance, call 888-770-4914. That is a toll-free number, and we have a great staff waiting to help you get in. Once we are in the webinar, what can we do? So here we see an example of a guy in a webinar. If we move our mouse over the screen there, over the webinar window, we'll see some options appear at the bottom of the window. In the middle, we've got the chat and the raise hand. We'll use these to communicate our desire to speak to Bishop Love during the meeting. And I'm going to read directly from the script so that I don't get anything wrong. To speak during convention, you will need to raise your hand by clicking on the hand button at the bottom of your screen. That's this guy right down here. Hands will be recognized in order, and you will be granted access to speak for up to 2 minutes. If a seconder is needed for a motion, please use the raise hand feature. The first hand raised will be the seconder. I'm going to show you how that looks when you do it. Click on it. There it says your hand is raised. It's blue. You can lower your hand by doing that. When you lower your hand, you are indicating that you no longer wish to speak. To speak specifically to a resolution, you must use the raise hand feature and use the chat bar. Let's go ahead and open that up right over here. And here we have a chat window that is opened up. All right. So I'm going to start that again here. To speak specifically to a resolution, you must use the raise hand feature and use the chat bar to state your name, parish, and for or opposed. People will be recognized and granted access in order, alternating between those for and those opposed. Each person will be allowed up to 2 minutes to speak. Again, if you lower your hand, you are indicating you no longer wish to speak. If you choose to speak during convention, you are agreeing to be seen and heard by all attending and live streaming, unless you block your camera. Note that the chat room is only to be used for requesting permission to speak. So now I'm going to initiate a request to speak. I've raised my hand and I'm going to state who I am. I'm Reverend somebody. And I put in my church. I'm from some church. And you have to choose to speak either for or against. I'm going to say for. And then I'm going to hit enter. And that indicates that I would like to speak. Now, Warren's been monitoring this thing, and I have just been promoted to a panelist. And that gives me a couple of extra things here. Most notably, the audio button, which you will want to unmute. I'm not going to do that right now. And you are going to want to start your video. Okay, unmute and start video. On the left, we've got the audio settings, which allows us to choose which speakers to use for listening. And when you've been promoted, it will have which microphone you wish to use. There's also audio settings down here. Same thing under video. We're going to use our webcam. Most of you won't have so many options. Here you've got video settings. Brings you to basically the same place. You've got your audio, you've got your video. You can set all of the options, choose which stuff you're using, and you can do that before you are slated to speak. Now let's say that I'm done speaking for this particular amendment. I'm going to be demoted again from panelist to participant. Your screen will go blank for just a second. It'll say rejoining, and it'll say the host has changed your status to attendee. We're back to our regular stuff here. We've got the audio settings on the left, which allow us to choose which speaker to use. We've got the chat button. We've got the raise hand button. There's one more button to note here, and that is the big red one on the right. It says leave, and that is exactly what it allows us to do, to leave the meeting. I'm going to click that and let's see what happens. That was easy. Okay, now let's look briefly at the voting. One thing for deputies to keep in mind is the difference between regular plurality voting and vote by orders. When it comes time for vote by orders, the delegates cast a group vote. It is important for your delegation to communicate. Only one vote is allowed on behalf of the parish. That voter will have to use the parish voter ID and key provided in the email you received from Deacon Marion. Voting will happen at edoa.electionrunner.com. We type that in and voila, nothing. Not now, anyway. When there is something to vote on, it will appear here. Election Runner also sends an email with a link, which is great, but sometimes a bit slow, so we should stick to going directly to edoa.electionrunner.com. When an election does come up, we click on it and find a ballot kind of like this. On a phone, it will look a little more similar to this one, and this is important because it's really easiest to use the computer for viewing the webinar and the phone for voting. That's a whole lot less flipping back and forth in different programs. If we can't do the double device trick, here's a tip. Alt-Tab to press and hold the Alt key on the keyboard and press the Tab key to cycle through the apps currently running. I hope this has been helpful, and remember, if you have any problems at all, call the CTK Convention Technical Assistance line. Thank you.